What the F is up with health? An orientation to thinking clearly about health. This is a 6-week guided program with me, David Barbarisi. Starts on March 4th. Enrollment closes on March 2nd. This includes live weekly classes and recordings, community space, and optional one-on-one support. This program is about unlearning the health stories we've been given, developing discernment when navigating health decisions, and getting an introduction to the terrain paradigm as a coherent way to understand health as adaptation rather than failure. It's a guided orientation to thinking more clearly about health, your body, and what's actually possible. Why health feels so confusing. The health stuff is super confusing. Allopathy fails us, and most forms of holistic medicine are overly complicated and expensive. In many cases, neither provides lasting resolution of health issues, and both promote fear. Both frameworks have wrong underlying principles. Allopathy has no soul at its foundation. It involves warring, poisoning, mutilating in order to control symptoms, manage brokenness, and murder invisible enemies. Many of us were let down by allopathy through frequent drugs, surgeries, and chasing symptom suppression. Every intervention causes a new set of problems and it never ends. We follow all the rules and guidelines that the experts gave us and we still feel like crap. We end up spiraling in this framework. Maybe we learned in the last few years how the medical system really doesn't have our best interest in mind. So, what is there to believe now? Some of us learn about alternative or holistic medicine. In many cases, the holistic world also stays in the war and fear mindsets and keeps the permanent curses. Most of that replaces drugs with supplements and herbs, but it still requires belief in brokenness and enemies. Now you have to do all these expensive tests and take all these different pills. You got to fight your candida and other microbes. You have some latent Epstein-Barr virus that you can't get rid of, or you're doomed with an MTHFR defect, so you have to do boatloads of detoxes. There's plenty of crap to buy, devices, pills, cleanses, and so on. Not to mention tons of online influencers with conflicting info and even more things to sell. They'll scare you with all the toxins and traumas and things that are out to kill you, and then they'll sell you the solutions. You can end up stuck when you're doing everything right according to some painfully boring and rigid protocol that an influencer invented. Yet you're not resolving your health stuff and you live in fear of deviating from the protocol while also wondering why it's not working for you. Cool, now we're spiraling in this new framework. What if? Maybe the explanations are wrong. Maybe we're all very unique and need really personalized support. Maybe health can be simple. Maybe more is possible and we don't need to accept doom and fear stories. Maybe we're actually resilient. What if you don't have a permanent curse? What if you're not at war with yourself? What if the symptoms and microbes are supportive? What if you don't have to micromanage your body? What if sick people don't make well people sick? What if many of the labels, tests, and explanations are just flat out unproven, nonsensical, or useless? If the frameworks and experts are wrong, then what can we rely on and how do we discern? Hi, I'm David Barbarisi, a former depressed software engineer turned terrain health nerd and educator. When I was born, I was given a diagnosis of pycnodysostosис, which is claimed to be caused by a rare genetic defect. Growing up, I had physical symptoms, including frequent bone fractures from doing pretty normal things. It was said that my bones were too rigid. This experience led to me making up all kinds of stories and holding beliefs about the bad luck and brokenness I was facing. This thinking influenced multiple areas of my life to the point where I felt very limited, and I eventually sank into depression and coping in order to get by in life. I would usually have doctor's visits where they would tell me something was wrong, then they would do an intervention, and I wouldn't notice much of an improvement. So I became very reluctant to engage with the medical system as an adult. But after finding the right kinds of support, I made lifestyle changes, got off an antidepressant, and greatly improved my quality of life. As I made these changes that were the opposite of what I'd been told to do before, and life improved significantly, I got really curious. What else is possible? What else can this body do? What other things don't make sense? I went exploring holistic medicine, which seemed a lot better than allopathy, but shared a lot of the same patterns. Within the past few years, I've been learning about the terrain paradigm of health, which I would say is a totally different philosophy, which we're not at war with microbes, parasites, or our bodies. I've also developed my critical thinking and discernment skills, as I seem to have a certain way of thinking about things. I have a curious mind with a healthy skepticism, and I enjoy poking holes in ideas. I'm willing to unlearn and learn again over and over. I'm excited to help others sort through the mess of health info and synthesize my years of rabbit hole research and experience with health into a practical, usable way of thinking. I want others to feel empowered enough that they can discern on their own without needing to outsource so much to experts. My work is for people who want clearer thinking, fewer contradictions, and a more grounded relationship with their bodies and lives. This program is a distillation of how I now understand health, adaptation, and responsibility. How the program works: it's a 6 week guided program with live weekly classes and recordings. We meet Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time from March 4th to April 8th. Each session runs about 60 minutes. They'll be recorded, so live attendance is optional. In each session, I'll introduce concepts, walk through examples, and guide discussion and questions. The emphasis is on understanding how health stories form, where they break down, and how thinking differently changes what we do. Along with the live sessions, there are simple optional integration practices. These are invitations to observe your own life and body more carefully, try small changes, and notice what happens. The goal is to let lived experience interact with the ideas we're discussing rather than keeping everything abstract. There will also be a community space where you can share questions, observations, and patterns you're noticing. I'll participate there, respond to themes that come up, and occasionally add voice notes or extra material when something's worth expanding on. This is a space for orienting, questioning, and making sense of health in a more coherent way, not for fixing yourself or being told what to believe. Many people leave feeling less broken, less cursed, and less at war with themselves, even if their circumstances haven't magically changed. Over the 6 weeks, we'll explore the following themes. Number 1, how health labels turn into identity and how to break those spells. How the diagnoses, the tests, and the stories acquire meaning, how that meaning shapes identity, and what's possible when we loosen those identities. We'll explore outcomes and events that break the dominant health models, examples of people resolving so-called incurable or chronic conditions that neither conventional nor holistic medicine can adequately explain, and what those cases reveal about the limits of those frameworks. Number 2, ways to critically think and discern when navigating the health space and our own health experiences. I don't want you to just blindly believe me. I want you to build your own principles and discernment framework, then take your framework and use that to evaluate health claims, products, interventions, and make your own decisions for your health that make sense to you. Number 3, the terrain paradigm of health. I'll cover this philosophy of health that currently makes the most sense to me and is most usable. Some of the areas of this focus include microbes, microzyma and pleomorphism, symptom progression through homotoxicology, layered influences on health through Rudolf Steiner's Four Bodies, why we're not separate from nature, why fear-based health thinking creates more confusion, and I'll also chat about holographic blood analysis using the Bigelson method, which is a tool that's available for determining the body's priorities and order of operations. These themes are all large topics that could each be their own program. I'm intentionally bringing them together because they interlock. Unlearning old health stories creates space. Discernment helps you evaluate what's replacing them. And the terrain paradigm offers a way of organizing health that becomes usable once those other pieces are in place. Learning something new often requires loosening ideas that no longer fit lived experience. This program is designed to support that process without asking you to trade one rigid framework for another. Throughout the program, I'll give you some practices and experiments so you can integrate the concepts into your real life. You can bring your observations back to class and we can see how they might fit into the concepts we're talking about. Because a new framework or belief system is pretty useless if you can't actually apply it or if reality disagrees. After the program, you can keep self-experimenting and reframing your observations and results. You'll be able to avoid endless research spirals because you're taking action and you're determining what works and doesn't work for you in your own context. With your newly developed principles, discernment framework, and the terrain paradigm, you can reason about your health choices and take educated and empowered actions. If you want additional support, There's a 101 option. These calls are educational and orienting. They're not therapy or emotional processing. We'll focus on applying the framework, making sense of what you're noticing, and thinking more clearly about next steps in your own context. Health doesn't have to be this confusing. If you're tired of the noise in the health space and you're open minded, curious, and interested in understanding health in a clear, less fear driven way, this program is a good fit for you. I'd love to see you there. Enrollment closes on the 2nd.